So, welcome to the Introduction to the InnerTrac webinar. And I'm Hank Levin, and we're joined by Norma Novi, who is our technical administrator here. So, you know, I've designed several biomonitors. The latest one is the InnerTrac, and the GPS for the mind. And I've written a number of books. The best one, I think, is Clearing, a Guide for Professionals. And I think everybody here has a copy of it. We're going to start with explaining how the InnerTrac works and some things that you need to understand that are a little bit different from the normal paradigm about how the mind works. And according to the so-called normal paradigm for how the mind works, a thought is an electrochemical reaction inside the brain. And as long as you believe that, as long as you understand that, you can come up with plausible explanations about how the mind works, but you can't really do very much with it. And you can't really use the InnerTrac or the virtual meter for those that have them. The InnerTrac is a gadget that allows us to find specific thoughts. It does that by measuring skin resistance. This is a very old technology. It started in the 1800s. And the reason that it never really caught on was because the early experimenters were using equipment that was very, very slow. That included Carl Jung, by the way. And he understood that it was important, but he wasn't able to do very much with it because it was so slow. He couldn't make the connections. So more lately, it's become amplified and much, much quicker. And so now we have equipment that allows us to find specific thoughts. And the InnerTrac is the most recent development of that. Like I said, it measures changes in skin resistance, and that gives clues to what the person is thinking. And what you need to understand and use the InnerTrac is that thoughts are not electrical reactions inside the brain. What they are quasi-physical holograms and flows. They are created by the being who owns the body, and that's an ancient concept, but it's very difficult for anyone who knows that they are a body. And that idea is not part of current philosophy or establishment thinking. The establishment knows that we are bodies. Even New Age people believe that there are bodies that have a soul and that thoughts are happening inside the brain. But they're not. The being creates thoughts and can actually project them. There is a whole realm of realities here that we'll get used to soon enough. But if a person really thinks that this is happening all inside their brain, it's going to be very hard for them to use. Actually, it's almost impossible for them to use something like the virtual meter or a biomonitor that shows the needle moving back and forth, because they have no way to align this with things that are happening in the medulla oblongata and different parts of the brain. There's no way to associate that. But if they understand that thoughts are projections that a person can create and put wherever he or she wants, they can use the meters easily. The InnerTrac transcends that difficulty by just showing colored lights moving, and we'll get into the specifics of that later. The key thing, these are the things that we need to understand about what the InnerTrac measures. First of all, one can have a thought or a memory or a belief or a consideration or fear of which one is unaware. I mean, this is the basic understanding of any therapy, regardless of the underlying beliefs. This is why we have therapy. It's possible to have a thought and not know you're having it. This is a hypothesis for now, and we're going to ask you to take it on advisement and just consider that this may be true and see how it works for you. I don't think the people who are here right now, I rather know them, and I don't think there's much of a conflict for all of us right now to understand that thoughts are non-physical things that affect physicality. Thoughts, okay, so thoughts, for one thing we have to understand about thoughts, normal thoughts are not normally stored. Negative mental energy thoughts do get stored, and those are the things that cause stress and the things that we are interested in therapy. So if thoughts are not normally stored, how do we remember things? Well, we remember things, again, this is a hypothesis. We remember things by moving around in time as beings, which we can do as beings. We can also move around in space. And this is how remote viewing works. We can actually go wherever we want. We can go, if we train ourselves, to look around somebody's room across the country or across the world and tell them what's in it. There are people that specialize in this. They have this, they've developed this ability, or they've had it since birth. The reason that we don't all have, now we all have it to some extent, but the reason that most of us don't see this is because it's not part of our culture. It's too outrageous, and the implications are too disturbing for a lot of people. But the fact is that we can do this. And like I said, we don't normally store thoughts. There's no place in our space, let alone our bodies, to store all of the thoughts, like what we had for breakfast this morning and where we put our car keys yesterday. And I mean, we have enough trouble with those. But to be able to access this is actually a kind of a spiritual ability. It's not a mechanical ability, with one exception. There's certain kinds of thoughts that do get stored. Okay, and we call these, I call them negative mental energy thoughts. Negative mental energy thoughts, we use NME thoughts as an acronym. Pun is intended. They do cause us difficulty. And interestingly, there are only 4 categories of these negative mental energy thoughts. Next slide, if you would. Yeah, and back up one. Thanks. One of the things that we have to know about negative mental energy thoughts, before I tell you what the 4 categories are, is that they cause stress. Well, they cause stress, and they also are easily detected by the InnerTrac. It's very interesting. Normal thoughts are not easily detected or identified by the InnerTrac, but stress thoughts are. And there's 4 kinds, 4 categories. First category is upsets. An upset is a thought that entails being pissed off with somebody, upset about something, bugged about something. And this could be anything from a mild disappointment or annoyance to blinding rage, but those are all upsets. Now, there's a special category of these where we have grief. You could even call that another form of negative mental energy. Grief is kind of like an upset, but it has its own anatomy, and it almost invariably involves loss of something. Okay, so these are upsets. The second category is quandaries. Quandary is a situation, it's a thought that is connected to having 2 goals that are mutually exclusive. Okay, and that creates a certain feeling. The feeling is actually frustration. We could call it a frustration thought, but the anatomy of it is two opposing goals, or having a goal simultaneously with another goal that is that makes it impossible to have both. You get the idea. And the third negative mental energy thought is guilt. And again, that's a feeling, named for a feeling. A lot of people, everybody knows what guilt feels like. A lot of people don't have any idea what causes it. What causes it is actually having done something we know we shouldn't have done, or not done something that we should have done, and then trying to keep it a secret. It's the sin of omission or commission, and then we try to hide it from everybody, sometimes including ourselves. This gives us a certain unpleasant feeling. It's distracting. It takes up attention, which would be like taking up memory unnecessarily in a computer, and it makes us act weird. It can make people become very critical. In fact, one stage of guilt where a person wonders if he's been found out, but he's not sure. They become very critical, very difficult. The next negative mental energy is, again, named for a feeling, but it's really a thought process. And what it is simply a thought being present, which is a memory of a physical or emotional trauma, something which must never happen again. These are the four things that when a person comes to us and asks for help, it's always one or more of those categories. And of course, there are infinite things that can cause these, cause stress, but they virtually all fit into one of those four categories. There is a fifth category, which is one or more of those four categories that we are copying from someone else unknowingly. Okay, that's a whole subject. We could do a whole seminar on that. But that is basically the anatomy of what can go wrong with your thoughts and your feelings. Of course, the feelings are based on thought. And feelings, of course, lead to behaviors. So most people, if they're unhappy with what's happening in their lives, if they have any level of responsibility, they realize it's because of things that they're doing. It's because of their behaviors. They seldom realize their behaviors are happening because of their beliefs or thoughts. And the fact is, most people don't know what they're thinking at any given time. And we can get into that later. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I'm skipping through a lot of things. I'd like to give a lot of examples and anecdotes, but I want to do these demos. And we have a couple of guests here that I want to introduce you to. So the InnerTrac works by showing the presence of one or more of these enemy thoughts, upsets, quandaries, guilt, and fear. And it shows whether it's accumulating or discharging. The feeling of these things accumulating is when someone has been talking for too long, or they're trying to get you to do something you don't want to do, and you don't want to be rude, and so you just put up with it quietly while they're talking. Or somebody who's trying to explain something to you already know about. You don't need the explanation, but again, you're trying not to be rude, so you just put up with it, and you get more and more and more uptight. And that's an accumulation of this negative mental energy. The discharge of the negative mental energy would occur when you say, listen, I already know about that. I don't need you to keep telling me about it. And so you would actually feel that negative energy draining out. And you would see it on the InnerTrac as well. We'll show you in a little bit. So, 16, stored negative mental energy thoughts produce a residual energy, and it's actually the source of stress. So the stored negative mental energy thoughts produces a residual energy which gives you a certain kind of a reaction on the InnerTrac. It's an instantaneous reaction, And that's what makes it so useful. Okay? We're going to give you a little demonstration of that. Okay, do you see the blue lights going on?
They don't appear as blue, but there's a series of 3 lights that go on.
And there is a yellow light that goes on over here. Okay, the blue lights indicate a discharge of negative energy. And this happens when a person is attaining some form of relief. Sometimes the light will flash when you bring up or invoke a thought which is uncomfortable. They'll flash and then go back. And there won't be a complete discharge, but you can indicate or detect the presence of something that's upsetting to the person. The yellow light will come on when the person is slowly getting more uptight, like that.
The yellow light.
Does everyone see that?
I don't think they can see colors.
Anthony, can you see anything?
Yes, I can see it, yeah. I don't get color, but I've got my own in front of me, so I can see what it's supposed to be.
These 3 right here, the series are blue.
Yeah.
And they come on singly, one in sequence.
Yeah. And the yellow light on this side over here comes on by itself. I don't know if it's better to have more light or less light to show them. Okay, we'll go with what we've got. Okay. Paul, do you see this?
Yes, I can see it. You can't see the colors, but we know where what the meaning of that light is. So that's fine.
Right. And David, do you see it?
Yes, I see that. Again, not specific colors, but based on the pattern of the lights, it's easy to tell whether it's fall or the rise or the other, what light it is.
Yeah. Something else that happens when there's a fall that goes beyond a certain point, the lights will start to blink. Okay. You notice down here is a window with numbers in it. Those numbers are your baseline. What the InnerTrac is actually reading within the scan of these 4 lights is a certain narrow amount between the there's a narrow amount. See the orange square on the top. There's a narrow amount in that long scale between 1 and 6. The lowest number you can actually get on the InnerTrac on that window is 0.5, and we just left that out of the diagram. And the highest is 6.5. So it's between 1 and 6. That's actually an enormous amount of difference in resistance. But the InnerTrac focuses just on one small section, like that. Give me the mouse. Let me see if I should be able to use this as a pointer. This is the pointer. This is the arrow here. Okay. So do you see this top square, the top rectangle? Okay, that would be one particular range. And if you go below that range, you'll see the lights blinking on the InnerTrac, and then the number will change, and your range will have changed. In this case, there would be a drop from 4.5 to 3.5. That's a 1 division drop. Each of these numbers is a division. And so then after that, you would be working with the bottom rectangle. I hope that explains something about range. in psychology, where they're working with biofeedback, they use the word baseline also. And what's the next? Okay, understanding range and baseline. This is by changing the sensitivity knob, you actually change the size of this rectangle. At high sensitivity, this is low sensitivity, and so you would be examining a wider focus of your overall range. And yeah, at high sensitivity, that's low sensitivity. High sensitivity, you're focused on a smaller amount of the range. So it's more amplification. It could be a little confusing, but you're looking at a smaller amount of the range in order to magnify it greater. That's how your sensitivity knob works. Okay, I wanted to explain that before we did the demo. I thought that it would make the demo a little bit more meaningful. Let's do this demo. Okay, so I'm going to ask Norma a question. Okay, in the last week. Okay.
Yes.
Is there anything that you've been upset about?
I've been under a lot of stress, deadlines, graphics, stuff like that. I'm not sure if I've
Okay. Well, there was instantaneous response there. In fact, all three lights went.
Okay.
Now, if you had actually spotted it, nailed it, it would have started going up again. When the yellow light goes on, it's going up. So let's take a look at what that upset was specifically. That one. That, right there. You got it. That's it. You just look at something. What was it?
Oh, please, company.
Oh.
I'm
A specific thing. Is it with me? No. If it had been, the blue light, we would have blew it up. So is it with somebody else? Is it about the circumstances, the environment, money? Yes.
Money, did you say?
Yeah. There we go. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So you see there, time out. Thank you. You see how there was an upset. She's walking around with it. The visual energy. It'd be interesting to know where in your body are you putting that negative energy. I won't go there right now, but you could. Oh yeah, sure.
I've got. Let's see. I've got chest, lungs, digestion.
Yeah.
Inability to sleep. Let's see.
Which is the worst one?
Well, the sleep is the immediate.
Okay. Now that's not showing up as the worst.
I tend to hold my chest and not breathe. I tend to shut down my breathing.
Well, that answers that.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you
is.
for sharing that. Yeah, I wasn't aware that you were having such an issue with that. So you see how we actually use that to pinpoint not only a personal issue, but a physiological response to it that could be troublesome. Okay. Yeah. So does anybody have a question about that so far? Oh, hi, Tron. Yeah. So, we're going to do this ice breaking process. And We have a guest. Ron Enger, and he is from Denmark. There's Trump.
There it is.
Ron Enger is our guest, and he is in Denmark. He is a specialist in EFT, meta-EFT. He's a master practitioner, and he's also our InnerTrac distributor in Scandinavia. And he teaches in Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Estonia, and also England, and also Cairo lately. So, hello, Tron.
Hello.
Just to make you know.
Yeah, give me a moment, and I am going to. Can you share with us some things about what you do with the InnerTrac? We do not hear your audio at all.
Can you hear me now?
Now we hear you, yes.
Okay. Well, I've used InnerTrac for, I think, about 3 years, in about maybe 500 sessions. And I am a therapist using emotional freedom technique. And it has been a wonderful tool to find the reason for diseases and the exact incident that triggered anything or something, and the exact moment of the traumatic incident. And I can even see when it releases. Of course you can. When you see a fall or a blue light, you know that you are releasing something when it's blinking. And when a client is using his strategies in order to get away from something, you see a yellow light, and you will at once notice when something is finished as well by the white light. That's the way I use it, and have used it for many hundreds of sessions. For me, it's a wonderful tool. I use it as good as every single session I've had for, I would say, at least maybe 2.5 years since I started using it for about 3 years ago.
Wow.
So for me, it has been a wonderful tool to use.
What's the biggest advantage that it gives you?
Certainty, where to find the traumatic incident, to see how the session is going, how it's working, whether the client is releasing something or not, and to know exactly what's happening in the session. And it has reduced my session time, I would say, almost I say half the time as a normal I've used before.
Wow.
So, but the most important for me is that it verifies that I'm on the right track, and I am handling the right item. And some months ago, I even treated someone with cervical cancer. And with InnerTrac, I found the exact moment of traumatic incident. I knew exactly when was the worst moment of that incident, and really released it. And I could see on InnerTrac what happened all the time. And when we finished, of course, we had what you normally would call a floating needle. I wouldn't call it a whole arm floating needle, but it was definitely a white light for a long time.
Yeah, that's what we call the release light.
Yeah, the white light.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you teach people to use this.
Sorry?
You have classes in all of these different places. What's your next class coming up?
My next class is actually tomorrow, but that's another method. It's called Aspectics, from a guy in Serbia called Levinsky. Some of you may know him, and he has a wonderful method. And that method I do not use InnerTrac at all. I could use it, but I'm not using it.
Uh-huh.
And next weekend I'm training in Norway with Meta Health, and there I always use it to find the exact metaphor behind an illness. And of course I find the exact moment when it all started and release it and see what releases, how it is releasing with InnerTrac as well.
Thank you.
So for me, it's a wonderful tool to make sure I'm doing the right thing and that I'm on the right track. And for some of you will know that I'm not overrunning the client.
Oh, fantastic. And you're teaching in Cairo also.
Yeah, I teach in Cairo. 3 weeks ago, I was in Cairo for 2 weeks training Meta EFT, as I call it. It's EFT seen from a higher perspective. And I will go back in mid-August for 4 weeks to train both in Cairo and in Alexandria. And in Estonia later this year in November, I think. That's about my schedule right now at this moment. But I don't know what will happen in September, October, November.
Okay. Well, your information is there up on the screen, and if somebody wants to reach you, they can email Tron at EFT.therapy.
EFT slash, not slash, but not underscore, what's the dash?
Yeah.
Therapy. That's a Norwegian way to say it. .as.
.as.
I can write it down to all of you so you can see if you would like to.
Well, do you see it on the screen?
I'll write it at the moment, in a moment.
It's on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, it is. Fine, that's good.
You're welcome to use it and put it on chat if you like also.
Yeah, I did.
And
Oh, yeah.
very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, there's nothing else.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing what you do, and for all the work that you're doing in Europe and all those different countries, Scandinavian countries, and you have had some activity in England and I think Spain also, of course.
I will move to Spain, maybe within half a year, maybe a year, and train people there as well. And I have trained in England, as you know, in Estonia, Egypt, in Denmark, and in Norway.
Well, it's a privilege to have you here.
I'm glad to be here. And as you know, I've sold about 60 InnerTracs so far, and it has really been wonderful to help people to use it as good as possible. I'm very satisfied with it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And have a good evening. It's 10 o'clock there now, right?
Now it's 11 o'clock.
Wow.
22:47. That's me. Okay, I saw it.
Fantastic.
That's right.
We have some more people who came in. And here we are. Norma is back. We want to do. Let's do that. Let's do that little process. We call the ice-breaking process. So we're going to do this, and you can still see the InnerTrac, and it's basically of 5 questions that I ask, but it's done rather informally. And the first is, what do you need to talk about right now? What's going on for you?
I'm speechless. I haven't prepared it.
Well, you have something. You see,
Yes.
the little blue light that came on. As soon as I asked that, there was no hesitation. By the way, if you ask a question and there's a moment or two before you get a reaction, that indicates that the person is thinking about it, but there's no residual energy on it. And what we're looking for when we're doing clearing or energy tapping or EFT or any of those things, we're actually looking for something that responds with no delay. And that indicates that the energy is residual. It's already there. It's not being generated by a thought process. So I want to explain that so that you understand how the unit is being used. So we did get a reaction. The question was, what's going on, basically. Very specific question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got, well, after this webinar, I have a couple of people that want sessions. And so I just accepted one of them, but it just like, oh God, this is just too much. Too much, pressure, please, like people are pulling at me.
Pulling at you psychically?
Yeah.
So they're in your space.
Well, I'm aware that they want something from me.
Right now, give me a time out. I asked her psychically. If you're making, if there's a lot of noise in your immediate environment, would you please mute yourself? You can do that on your screen because we're getting a lot of background noise from all over the world here. Okay, so we're in a timeout. I want to explain that I asked if they were in their space psychically. I did not get a response from that. Now, that might have been a plausible, a good question, and in fact, it might be happening. I don't know. But it's not her issue. It's not the thing that she was looking at, you see. And in fact, as we talk about this, the yellow light is on, and so things are getting a little bit more.
They're heating up.
Yeah, they're heating up. So if we can take a look at about these clients, is there one in particular that you're worried about? There's a response to that.
One client.
That's it.
Yeah, she's been. She's taken a break because of money, but she was in. People's lives intrude, don't they? Yeah, she was very upset, but that seemed to be okay. And then she called yesterday and said, "Oh, I'm really upset about something." So I guess I have a little attention on her. I'm a little.
Yeah. So there's some energy, definitely some energy on that.
Right.
Is there some undelivered communication there? Something you would like to say to her that you think you shouldn't say?
Well.
Now that's give me a second. I did not get a response to that.
But I have something I'd like to say to myself, and that, pull back and maintain more of a separation.
Thank you.
There, that rest.
Yes.
Like, geez, I'm becoming too concerned, too involved, and people have a little more.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a session there. And you see how that works. Anybody have any questions about that before we go on? Hi, Jennifer. You're here, aren't you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think we can all hear you. Jennifer is here from New Zealand. What time is it now in New Zealand?
It's about 9 in the morning.
9 in the morning. That's not too bad.
No.
Yeah, we had a person sign in from India, but I don't know if she's on. Is she here? No. And she didn't quite make it. There would be maybe 1 in the morning right now. Yeah. Oh, that's too bad. Is Robert Coleman on? Is he online?
Hank?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you asked Norma about the last item, you got the yellow light.
Yes.
And then you responded, I didn't seem to get an answer to that question. Why did you say that?
I did not get a response from the meter to the question. I was testing the question.
Okay.
Something that you can do, if sometimes you ask a question, or I'll ask a question that's plausible, it's an educated guess, and so I'll use it to ask the question. If I do not see a response, I will stop short. Now, if the person has something they want to tell me that wouldn't work, then I'm interrupting them. But I used the InnerTrac to assess that there was not an issue in there. You see, so you ask the person a question. There's no energy on it.
Indicated that to her. The moment you indicated that to her, that there was no response to the question, she got 2 and 3 blue lights. Why is that?
She got 2 what?
Blue lights. At once you indicated that I didn't get any response to that question.
Oh, well, that indicated a charge. She was sitting there looking for an answer to my question.
Yes?
And I could have left her looking for an answer to that question.
Yes?
And she didn't really have one, and that becomes a concern.
Yes?
And then I
see.
essentially excused her from the task of finding an answer to the question, and that produced a momentary little relief.
Thank you. I understand. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. That's a very good point. Had one or more of those blue lights lit up in response to my original question, and then I interrupted it, that would have been a big no-no.
I saw she's still releasing something on it, so it's interesting. But thank you for explaining it. Thank you.
You felt that she was releasing something on that?
And still, the lights are on.
She still had some blinking blue lights.
Oh yeah. Well, as we talk, if a person is alive and they're just holding the sensor, things will move around.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But we don't know what they're moving around in response to unless we ask them to tell us or ask specific and look for the response.
Yeah. If I can add anything here.
Please.
Yes, please.
I'm kind of feel a little more relaxed. It's been sort of a high tension day, and we've gotten 2 demos done, and and so I'm starting to go, I can relax.
Wonderful.
Now what the yellow light is now, I don't know. There we go. Release light.
Yeah. When you see lights blink, in order to understand the use of the InnerTrac, when you see lights blink, you've got to find out what is going on. That doesn't tell you anything by itself. You can't put a person on this unit, or really, in my estimation, any unit, any of the biomonitors or any biofeedback. You cannot sit there and look at it and make any generalization about what condition the person is in. And people do that. They do this all the time. Oh, you've got a very high range. That means you're uptight. No, well,
what is my range?
I don't even know.
Oh, it's 4.0.
That's not so bad. But well, generally, a high range indicates the person is resisting something in their space. But you don't know what it is unless you ask them. I mean, it could be anything from they have to go to the bathroom and they're trying to ignore it, or they have a headache and they're trying to ignore it, or there are beings talking to them and they're trying to ignore that. You can't. You don't know until you formulate the right questions and ask. And there is equipment that purports to tell you exactly what condition the person is in without you having to talk to them. And I don't, I generally don't believe it. I haven't found it to be true all the times that I've been introduced to equipment like this and techniques like this. It's much better to ask the person, hey, what's going on there? Or what did you just look at? You see? So, is Robert Coleman with us yet? I don't think so. He's another one of our guests, and we'll have to find out what's going on. So, as Tron said, I think I'm going to pull this back so you can see who's talking to you. Is that okay? Give us a moment, and we're going to change the setup here a little bit. In lieu of any real camera controls, you can go back more.
While you are rearranging, maybe someone has a question for me. I'm willing to answer anything.
Anybody? I have questions for you. I don't want to hog the whole thing.
I have a question for either one of you.
Yes.
How often, when you're trying to find out, the core source of a big upset or negative mental energy, and you ask a question, you don't get an immediate response with the lights, but the person's, starting thinking and they're coming up with an answer, how often do you just kind of interrupt and say, that's not really what we're looking for, and move on to the next one? Because at that point, they've kind of got some story they're ready to tell you.
That's a good question, and I'll give you some situations. Sometimes you ask a question, and you're sure there's an issue there, and the person doesn't come up with anything. Well, if it does not read, I will try to get off of it as quickly as possible. I will, you don't want the person sitting and hemming and hawing, trying to be compliant, trying to accommodate you, but you've asked a question for which there is no answer. And some people will really, really look and try very, very hard to give you an answer to the question that you asked, and there's no answer. For instance, you might ask a person, based on certain circumstances or observations, is there something that you've done that you feel guilty about? Well, that's a real hot item, because that makes people behave kind of weird. That's one of the guilt questions. That's one of the negative mental energies. If you do not get an immediate response to that question, it's good to tell them, okay, that's clean. That did not read. Okay, because you don't want them poking around in their past and maybe even lighting something up that wasn't lit up when they walked in. What you're doing when you're asking a question really is you're checking to see if there's any energy on it. In other words, you're checking to see if it reads. In fact, one form of this therapy is to out a little bit or in a little bit so you can see it. You can have a list of questions, of possible issues, and work off of that list. For instance, the person comes in and they're just stressed out. They don't know what's happened. This is a normal human condition. They have no idea what the hell's going on. And you can ask them, okay, here's a list of questions. I'm going to ask them one at a time. Is there an upset? Is there some kind of a quandary? Is there something you feel frustrated about? Is there something you feel sad about? Is there something you felt sad about for a long time? And you can ask these questions about as quickly as you can say them, and you're looking for a response on the InnerTrac. And if they do not respond, you either go on to the next question. You have to set this up beforehand, otherwise you spin the person around. If you just go from one question to the other, and you're not waiting for any answers, and they don't know what's happening. Or you could say that was clean. So you have a list, and you go down each question. Is there an upset? That's clean. You have some kind of frustration. That's clean. You have this. It's clean. You have that. Is this going on? Is that going on? And finally, you get something that reads, and you look up at them and you say, okay, we got some charge on that. What do you think that might be? That's a whole style of working with people. People actually like it because they don't have to really look very deep to answer every question. Sometimes there are a number of reasons that they might have a problem with in an area. Yeah.
May I say something, Hank? Yeah. I'm using it often to identify the exact moment when something happened.
Mm-hmm.
I may ask, did it happen between 0 and 5 years? Thank you. If I do not get a reaction within 1 or 1.5 seconds, I say thank you, and then I move to the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you. And then I continue until I get a reaction on the meter. And I do not accept, of course, I accept an answer or a reaction on the meter after 3 seconds, but I know then it has gone through what I consider the left hemisphere. And that is not valid from my point of view.
Exactly. You're getting their thoughts about it.
Yeah. And I'm always looking for an instant reaction on the InnerTrac.
A second and a half, I would say, is quite a lot.
Yeah, I do agree. But I always, and one more thing, I'm always pressing the reset button at the end of the next question.
This is the reset button.
So I get a fresh reaction on the meter. Always.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that, insight and for that explaining how you use that. By the way, this reset button is used because when the range changes, the lights blink and it readjusts itself to the proper range. That's wonderful, but that takes a couple of seconds. And if you're about to ask a question, you don't want to wait for the thing to stop blinking. You can just force it to reset by pressing that reset button.
Yeah.
By the way, I think these were designed in response to your request. Weren't they, Frank?
Yeah, they were. And that's because I didn't want to lean over the client to reset the meter. I wanted something remotely that I could control the meter to reset it. And by the way, I have an assessment list of 62 different polarities, normal polarities, and every single question, every single line I ask, I reset the meter before I ask the next question. Wonderful. And then I may take 5 reads from that list and check out which one of them to handle first.
Wow.
Based on which one gives the highest response on the InnerTrac.
What did you mean by polarity? Is it a question or
it's a list of normal polarizations or normal dualities in life. For example, love and hate, love and fear, and darkness, lightness, I and not I, different polarities in life.
Areas where there could be conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, it's a conflict.
Would you be willing to share that with people who email you?
Oh yes, I will.
Great. Well, your information is still up there on the screen, so that if you copy that down, then you can reach Tron.
So I had just a follow-up to that. When you're looking for a read, if you get an instant and it's just one light, but it's instant, is that enough, or do you look for more than one light?
That's enough. More than one light is better. 3 lights is better. 3 lights followed by blinking means that you just made them look at something that just blew the lid off. You see? But 1 light is important. It depends on the situation and the question, but I think that 1 light is worth following up. It means, yes, there was a reaction to that. Sometimes that's all you'll get in the beginning. And as they start talking about it, more blue lights will go on, and more blue lights will go on, and the blue lights will blink. And more blue lights will go on, and there will be more blinking until the range will go down 1.5 divisions, say from 4.5 all the way down to 3. Now that indicates that you've blown the lid off of something, and they will feel a difference. They'll feel lighter. They'll feel more relieved, more open. There are situations where that happens very easily, especially where people are, we're kind of getting in a little bit deep here, but where they're misowning someone else's energy. You know, we share our thoughts, and sometimes we walk around with an upset or a fear, or sometimes even a physical pain. It's not even ours. It belongs to someone else, and we are assuming that it's ours. And we can never fully handle it because we're assuming that it's coming from us, and we're attributing the wrong source to it. It's actually coming from somewhere else or someone else. And when you indicate this, and it's a correct indication, it blows the lid off of it. And I've seen drops of, say, 2 full divisions. This is unusual, but it's not rare. And this is how that sort of a thing happens.
I would always look for 3 blue LEDs if possible. I would always look for that. Of course I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't stop treating the person if I get a blinking light. Then I know the snowball has started rolling. Then I would continue on that item, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then sometimes as you're treating them, and you get a white light, but it seems to you that it's not done. You get a white light followed by more blue lights. You just keep going. Because I've had you know, a client now who's worked with this a little bit who thinks, oh, we're done now, and I'm having a hard time helping them understand when it's done and when it's not.
Yes. Yes.
I see that from time to time. I have a metaphor for that. First you climb up to Kilimanjaro, and then when you're finished, when you're trying to release everything, you'll have to stop at the upper base camp and take a break, have a white light for a second, maybe 2, and then it continues to blink blue lights, and then you go down to the next base camp, and then you take another break, maybe another aspect, you get white light for maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and then you continue to go down, releasing the rest of the incident. And finally, you get down to the bottom of the valley, and then you may have a white light for 10, 15 seconds.
And that is a fine, that takes a fine touch. And what you want to look for is after you see that white light, if you start seeing the yellow light, that indicates what we call overrun. You're going too far. And
when I see a white light for more than 5 seconds, I always ask the client what happened.
yes.
And then I let the client originate what happened, and then I may tell him, I can confirm that the InnerTrac showed me that that's correct.
Exactly. It's important to do that.
As a confirmation.
Well, I didn't actually realize that the white light was on for different levels of time. I thought it just stayed on till you for a certain set amount of time.
No. To tell the truth, it is designed to stay on long enough so that you can't possibly miss it. So there's an artificial, if we can call it that, an artificial persistence on that white light. And so once you see it and you've acknowledged it, I do not wait to see if it persists longer than a certain amount of time. I see it and I know that it's there. And then I will use the button switch, and that will kill it and start you with nothing, and you can keep going.
But of course, you cannot only use the InnerTrac. You'll have to observe the client as well.
Absolutely so. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
So, any other questions?
I had one earlier, but I forgot it. It'll come back to me.
Oh. We'll have to put you on the InnerTrac and find it. Yeah. Oh, by the way, is Ryan there?
He was, but he has an Aikido event he had to get to, so he had to step out.
So I'd like to tell you about something else. I have created another product, and it's called Fulfillment, all capitals, with an exclamation mark. So, what is fulfillment? Fulfillment is a compilation of all of the techniques that I have developed and written about in my books and that I've used, and it's been put together into a course of education, a workshop. It's been in development for over 50 years that I've been doing this, and it's a system of integrating methods of self-realization, self-fulfillment, and achieving greater peace and personal invulnerability without sacrificing empathy. Does that sound good? So studying this should give you a freedom from anxiety and apprehension, and a freedom from sadness and disappointment. It removes the underlying sadness and disappointment that every normal person lives with. Normal people feel deeply sad about something, and they just walk around with it. And it does eventually make them sick and can kill them. And fulfillment also addresses depression. So you learn about depression for yourself and other people, where it comes from. It will address recognizing and eliminating self-sabotage. To believe, self-sabotage is a very controversial thing. If you Google it, you have all kinds of theories and ways of dealing with it. Most people's definition of it is not very effective. It is certainly not a biochemical thing. And it comes from an understanding of quantities. It addresses fulfillment addresses freeing yourself from the effects of emotionally and physically traumatic experiences. There are a lot of therapies that address this: regression therapy, Dianetics, EFT, and it's a compilation of different techniques for dealing with trauma. It addresses freedom from being compromised by the negative energy and suffering of other people. We talked about that a little bit, but for people who have done a lot of work on themselves, studied a lot of processes and procedures, that can be the biggest source of frustration, of sadness, of difficulty, of illness. It has to do with the negative energy and suffering of other people. It will also result in the expertise in recognizing and handling all of the different categories of negative mental energy in yourself and other people. And that is important because you need to be able to become an expert in each of these things so that you can deal with them with other people. A lot of technologies and practices and modalities that are purport to be self-fulfilling or relieving anxiety and anguish, they present themselves in such a way that if you partake of them, if you participate in them, it will fix you. And in 50 years of work, I've seen that you never get really fully handled. You never really transcend these issues without being able to help somebody else to do it. So fulfillment addresses all of these things. And to find out more about it, we have a free webinar next Saturday, this coming Saturday, at 1 o'clock p.m., as was this one. And to register, you will go to InnerTrac/fulfillment.html, www.InnerTrac/fulfillment.html. It should be easy to remember, except the word fulfillment in this URL, in this address, has to be capitalized. I don't know why it has to be capitalized. I did not think that URLs were case sensitive, but this one is. And that one works. I tried to do it without, lowercase and without the www and without the HTML. This is what works. www.InnerTrac/fulfillment.html. Everybody got that?
Excuse me, Hank?
Yes, Jennifer.
Is this a process that's mostly written to use on yourself or with clients?
Both.
Okay.
It's not a process. It's not a magic process.
Okay.
It's actually involved a number of processes.
I would think compassion fatigue would be the big one in that one.
Compassion
fatigue would be the big one.
Compassion fatigue.
Yes.
Yes, that's an interesting concept. We saw that a little bit earlier with Norma. Norma has a client who's experiencing a great deal of anguish, and Norma tends to get energetically wrapped up with this to where it starts to affect her energy. And so, she's learned to deal with it. And she's actually had quite a bit of training with it. The idea that a person gets to a point where they have transcended all negativity is an interesting philosophical concept. But I myself believe that you just get to where you can handle it more quickly. It's like discernment. People look for the ultimate truth, and it's very important for some people to look for the ultimate truth, to find the ultimate truth, because if they have the ultimate truth, they no longer need discernment. And so it's kind of a false goal in a sense. They never achieve that. What you do attain is the ability to figure things out more quickly, to where instead of taking half a lifetime or 6 weeks or even 2 hours, you look at a situation, you see what's necessary, you do it, you handle it 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, it's done. And a lot of things that you bump into, you just look at them by examination, they go poof, whereas somebody else goes back and forth, maybe for 2 or 3 weeks with it. And we see this in relationships. We see this in job problems. You see what I'm saying here. So what we expect to get from fulfillment is the ability to basically become an expert in each of these things, and that's how we fulfill ourselves. Sometimes the personal advantages are unpredictable. For instance, a person who has a lot of secrets that they feel that they cannot live without, they have a certain lifestyle. It's very normal. But when a person gets to a point where there's nothing going on in their minds or in their heart that they would not easily be willing to share, they become telepathic. They become more telepathic. I mean, we're all telepathic, but they become more telepathic. You see? So you're actually achieving a gain by handling a whole aspect of negative human existence. Anybody have any questions about that? Crickets.
No, but I have another. I'm just wondering if at any point you'd be interested in doing a webinar on some of the maybe more intermediate things that come out of your clearing book.
Yes, give me an example.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, just I guess a little more advice into when to know which process to use and how, and when you don't get what you were looking from that, where to go next, that kind of stuff.
Oh, sure. Well, the webinar next week is an introduction to fulfillment, and it gives you hopefully an outline, an understanding of the an overview. There's a lot there, and it takes a while. Eventually, there will be a series. Somebody tested their sound. There will be a series of webinars, and those will, for people that are interested in it and fascinated by it as I am, there will be live events. But for now, the next thing is the overview, which is the webinar next week. And yes, to answer your question, Jennifer, yes, these things will be handled more in detail. And of course, you're always welcome to contact me personally and ask me questions.
Right.
Any other questions?
No,
I
thank
would like
you very
to add
much.
something. Not a question, but I would urge you to hold more webinars like this where we can discuss the use of InnerTrac in different areas, different modalities as well. I think it has been extremely valuable. So thank you, Hank.
Thank you, Tron, and thank you for that suggestion. And I see that Paul has been nodding approval. And I look forward to doing that, and I deeply appreciate your feedback and your participation and your enthusiasm. I think that if there are no more questions or comments, I think that we're actually exactly on time, 2:32, my time. Time to go to bed, Tron's time.
Hey,
Webinar workshop is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, Hank.
Yes, Jennifer.
I just wanted to add, next time you do a webinar, you might want to include in your email instructions that if you can't get on, to try a different browser. I couldn't get on using my normal browser no matter what I did.
Did you try calling tech support?
There was no tech support number for me because I'm not paying for the service. I couldn't. Oh, maybe it was in the email.
It was in the email.
Oh, I was looking on the website.
It's an 800 number. Yeah, a little comment about, I was concerned that sometimes it takes people a while to get on, and even when they call tech support, and so I was advised by tech support to set up a trial email, just set up a trial meeting, and let people go into that meeting and do what they have to do and call tech support, like the day before. So I set it up yesterday, and after about 30, 40 minutes, an error message popped up on the screen saying that since there's no activity, the meeting is shutting down. I did that twice, And Anthony actually called my attention to that situation. So today I called up tech support, technical issues which we're going to be working on. One of our guests just called up and asked me why he wasn't introduced. Remember I kept asking, is Rob Coleman here?
Yes.
Well, he just called up and asked why he wasn't introduced. He did not show up, and I did not see him in the dashboard. I don't know what happened. I will introduce him next week when you come, and I'll find out what happened. He's on the phone now with Norma, and so wish us good luck with our technical odyssey here.
Okay, Hank, can you send an email on the fulfillment to us?
Yes, I'm sending it out this afternoon.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
Good. I wanted to give you guys. I wanted to give you guys first crack at it, and that email will go out today. And basically, when you click on this InnerTrac/fulfillment.html, it will take you to a landing page where you can sign up for it, and the email will have the same information. Okay?
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you all. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.